Very recently, Bethesda released a massive expansion to Fallout 76. This expansion sought to remedy two things. Firstly, a general lack of content, and more specifically, content that returning fans of the series were hoping to see in the first place. And secondly, a very wide array of bugs and problems that players have been experiencing for some time. They claim that with the Wastelanders update, nearly 1,000 bugs have been squashed. I saw this as a rather unique opportunity for me, as I hadn't played Fallout 76 prior to the Wastelanders update. Given the immense belly flop it endured upon release, I steered clear of it, which puts me in a position to look at the game not as someone discussing the improvements that Wastelanders brings, though I'll do that a little bit, but mostly as someone who can give a fixed opinion on 76 as an entry in the Fallout universe and the Fallout series. So today I want to attempt to answer a simple question in entry 3 of this new series designed to answer the age-old question every gamer has asked themselves every single time they hear about a new game. To buy or not to buy? Now when I first loaded up the game, I was greeted with a pretty familiar cutscene. The cutscene itself is entirely new, but the delivery method, the style, and the vibe were all very Fallout. War never changes, the world may be doomed, the vaults will save us. After this cutscene, I created my character in a familiar character creation menu, and after my character was finished, it was about when the similarities dropped off in number pretty drastically and pretty quickly. Now, before I explain what I mean by that, I need to show you this clip from when I first started streaming Fallout 76 on Twitch. Like, this is 10 or 20 minutes into the stream. Yeah, God, that's just really loud. Oh, I hit E to play the guitar and everything's breaking. I'm sorry, did the game just crash because I hit E to play the guitar? I didn't realize the E key was automatically bound to crash my game. Good start. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? What? Oh no. That is not a good sign of things to come. Oh no. Now that you have that in mind, we may continue. So, Fallout 76's biggest selling point is, and kind of always has been, its emphasis on multiplayer play. The lack of a single-player option is honestly one of the biggest reasons I didn't purchase it to begin with. But my friends recently, they peer pressured me well enough to buy it, given the Wastelander update. And multiplayer Fallout was something we dreamed of since Fallout 3, after all. And that multiplayer aspect becomes apparent as soon as you leave the vault in classic Fallout style. There are public events, other players running around, they're even shown on your map, and everyone has their own home base or camp. This all sounds cool, and it kind of is, but this is at the heart of my biggest problem with Fallout 76 right now. Personally, I find it quite difficult to enjoy 76 in the same way I've enjoyed previous Fallout titles. Most of the time, the multiplayer aspect of the game isn't such a big deal. If you want to run around on your own and just play solo, you really can, but it just isn't the same experience as previous Fallout titles. What I mean is, with the addition of NPCs and various humans and non-feral ghouls to interact with in 76, you'd think it would become much closer to previous Fallout titles. But unless you want to dish out $13 a month for your own private server, that's nearly impossible. Now, this next part is going to contain very minor plot spoilers, so if you're not interested at all in hearing those, skip ahead to the time on your screen now. Still with me? Okay, good, because I want to complain about this. So, in a pretty early game quest, you find yourself chasing a distress signal that leads you to an old airport, where you must valiantly fight your way through a small horde of Scorchers. But that's not what happened for me. What you are watching right now are the moments I am realizing something and my disappointment is growing, because I took a few of them out outside the airport, then I entered, and the place sounded like it was swarming. It was intense, and I was excited. I was slowly creeping around corners, ready at any moment to open fire with my shotgun. But it didn't take long for me to realize all of the noise I was hearing wasn't NPCs fighting for their lives, poised for me to save them in an epic quest moment. No, it was other players clearing the place out. I ended up jogging through the entire place, riddled with defeated enemies. Without firing a single shot myself, I made it to the NPC you're supposed to talk to at the end of the quest, who is an interesting character with somber and heartfelt dialogue. only to be distracted by his face turning every which way, talking to other players, and other players running around in the background. Any chance of immersion or accomplishment was foiled by other players just playing the game to no fault of their own. So with this in mind, we come down to the real question: to buy or not to buy Fallout 76. And admittedly, this one is kind of tough, but I don't want to give some wishy-washy, oh, maybe if it sounds fun to you, you should give it a try. Nope, I'm giving you a real answer, and here's the real answer. Fallout 76 wasn't worth buying before, not for someone looking for their regular Fallout fix. After the Wastelanders update, for $40 US, it's a pretty good game. It's fun, you can play it with or without your friends, and you can have a great time. With the Wastelanders update, there's plenty of enjoyable content and a pretty big world to explore. If you're not the type of player who cares much about immersion or concrete storytelling, seriously, it's a pretty decent game. The gunplay is decent, the multiplayer aspect is pretty solid, it's a graphically good-looking game with phenomenal lighting and an interesting color palette, and I think if you play it relatively casually, it could be a lot of fun. But for someone like me, someone who loves Fallout for the immersive gameplay, the dialogue and choices with consequence, and everything we've come to know and expect from previous Fallout titles, it's still just not quite worth it. Not with the flaws in the multiplayer system I just described. There is one way you can play single player essentially, which as I mentioned before is by paying into a monthly subscription service for a private server with a maximum of 8 slots. But at $13 a month, I can't justify it as worth it. Unless you're going to play it for 2 months, which would put you at a total of $66 invested into the game. If you can bust out the entire game in that time, honestly, I'd strongly encourage it. Otherwise, for most people, it's not worth it. I don't know, man. Locking single player or a dedicated co-op behind a paywall is one thing, and it bugs me a lot. But given the game is only $40 as opposed to the standard $60 for a AAA title, you could make an argument for it that I'd listen to. But making that paywall a monthly premium? No thanks. Ain't nobody got time for that. Bethesda heard our hopes and dreams of being able to play co-op Fallout with our friends, and they somehow managed to turn that idea into a cash grab. So, in conclusion, Fallout 76 is a pretty decent game. I wouldn't put it on the shelf right next to Fallout New Vegas or 3 or even 4, but it's a good game. It's got a brilliant lighting system and color palette, many of the same features and functions we've come to enjoy in previous installments in this series, and it does a fantastic job of portraying the hopeless and somber experience of roaming about in an apocalypse. I mean, they've really doubled down on the hopeless and terrifying reality of a post-apocalypse setting with a multitude of great dialogue and great voice acting. But it is not a typical Fallout title in the standard multiplayer mode. Other players and multiplayer events just accidentally get in the way far too often. As another example, about an hour or so into the game, I was forced away from the main quest by a public event that put far too many enemies in my way when I had nothing but a pipe pistol and a dozen or so rounds on my character. So if you go in expecting or hoping for a deeply immersive and personal experience like previous Fallout titles have given us, you will be deeply disappointed. Unless, of course, you're willing to pay an extra monthly fee to have access to a private server where you can play alone or just with the people you want to be playing with. So, to buy or not to buy Fallout 76, there are a few categories, and for those, here are the final answers. For people looking to play Fallout 76 casually, yes, buy it. I give it my recommendation to you. It will be well worth $40. But I cannot stress enough that this is mostly only a recommendation for players who aren't going to take the game too seriously. In discussion with my friends, the default multiplayer aspect of the game often feels a lot like Destiny, we've decided, if that paints any clearer a picture for anyone. There's a good game in there. You just have to remove yourself a little from the immersive aspects. But for returning players of the series, looking for the classic immersive and consequential experience that Fallout has provided us in the past, I am saying no. You might want to continue to hold off on buying it, unless you fit into one of the two following categories. Either money is no object to you, and you don't care about paying monthly to be able to play the game as you'd like it, as a strictly single-player Fallout experience similar to previous Fallout titles. Or, and I feel like a lot more people watching this video could possibly fit into this category, but it does require a little more work. If you have a good friend or two that you're confident will want to play the game the same way you want to play the game, and you're confident you'll have a good time playing with them, and they're willing to split that monthly fee with you for the private server, it could still be worth it. That's what I'll be doing, as one of my friends has already decided he'll just be paying for the server because he wants to. I do really hope that while I play with my friends, the game surprises me or captivates me in some way that I wasn't expecting, because as it stands, I'll be a lot more cautious about approaching future products from Bethesda, given the course that Fallout 76 has taken. So if you fit into this category, see what your friends think. There's still a good experience in there that I think I can recommend under ideal circumstances. You know, maybe I'll get back to you on that in a future video. But until then, thanks for your time. Until next time.